Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Construct Innovate webinar series on modern methods of construction. This webinar series is going to run for the next 8 weeks. My name is Jamie Goggins and I am co-director of Construct Innovate. So Construct Innovate is Ireland's National Research Centre for Construction Technology and Innovation. We're hosting this webinar together with Engineers Ireland. As I said, it's 8 weeks in there. So the first week that we're having here today is Introduction to Modern Methods of Construction. The next week will be Design and Delivery of Homes at Scale. In other words, is Modern Methods of Construction a magic bullet for this? Then we'll look at different technological solutions. So in week 3, timber is in the spotlight. Week 4, we look at steel solutions. And week 5, we will look at concrete solutions in there. Then in week 6, we look more broadly at some of the design considerations for modern methods of construction. Week 7, we'll take a focus on off-site manufacturing facilities, so how to deliver sustainability at scale to the construction sector. And then week 8 will be around quality planning and assurance side of things. So that's the 8 weeks. You can sign up for attending each of these webinars at the Engineers Ireland website. If you go into events and each of these individual webinars, you sign up for them individually. So we've today, as I said, we're going to concentrate on just introduce what modern methods of construction are. We're very fortunate to have 3 eminent speakers here, leaders in their own right in the different areas around modern methods of construction. So our first speaker is Martin Searson, who's leading of the modern methods of construction within the National Standards Authority in Ireland, and he's going to take us through a presentation on why modular, why now, and also the certification process for modular methods of construction. Then we have Paul Tierney, who's the CEO of Modern Methods, or MMC Ireland, effectively a representative group for the MMC industry in Ireland, and he's going to go through some of the current capabilities and capacity in various modern methods of construction technologies within Ireland. And then we have Dr. Daniel McCrum, from Construct Innovate, based at the University College Dublin, and he's going to talk about standardization of modern methods of construction. So we'll have the 3 presentations, and then we'll follow up at the end with any questions that you guys in the audience may have. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So you'll see the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please post them along as the presenters go on, and as I said, we will deal with all of the questions at the very end. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first presenter being Martin Searson, lead of modern methods construction in SAI. So over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to present here today on why modular and why now. So I want to touch upon where we are now in the industry and what they said at the recent general election. I think that's quite poignant now to look at what they said in terms of modern methods construction. So if you look at the main existing political parties before the general election, Fianna Gael said they would look to build over 300,000 units, so did Fianna Fáil, and then Fianna Fáil said they'd also do a further 4 billion for the Land Development Agency to move forward with the housing targets. Sinn Féin also said they'd build over 370,000 units, and then the Green Party said between 50 and 53,000. When you look at the other social parties that were also voting, they were suggesting that they would build around 65,000, 50,000. Only one of them, which was aimed to, mention that they would use modular as a solution, or an MMC, to help support the housing crisis and demographics in that area. So it's quite worth knowing that and what they're saying. So just a quick emphasis on what MMC is. There is 7 categories. Everyone should be familiar with that. If not, it came from originally of Mark Farmer over in the UK, but it also has different names known as prefabrication, offsite manufacturing, or offsite assembly. And with the work that Construct Innovative doing, they're looking at disassembly and reassembly and design for reuse. So we very much focus in the NSAI around 2D panelized systems and 3D volumetrics. And we also have an additive manufacturing company in there. We don't very much focus on the MEP side of the business, mechanical electrical piping, because they're covered under various EU directives, such as low voltage directive, machinery directive, ATEX directive, pressure equipment directive. So therefore, they have their own certification scheme under CE marking, but it's just to be aware of that and familiarized on it. There's been numerous reports published over the years, going back for the last couple of years. They should be publicly available. If you go into Google and just type MMC reports, the amount of PDF reports that come up for Ireland is just phenomenal. These were the first original reports that I co-authored on with the CAF, but there's been further reports from EY, from the roadmap for an increased MMC by the government. There's been another EY skills report that was published in July this year. There's promotion of careers that talks about MMC, the Build 2024 project about MMC. And then you have the spin-off from the Department of Taoiseach, the NESC report around MMC. You have the introduction guide to schools, CIOB and TASC back in January. This time last year, they published a report on MMC and the barriers for housing. And then you have the excellent publications from Construct Innovate, which is available on their resource sections. But there's numerous reports out there that are promoting and supporting MMC and where we go forward. Just a little bit about ourselves in NSAI. We have 4 divisions. We have a standards division, we have a legal metrology, and a national meteorological lab that does all the calibrations and maintenance of national technical specifications for calibration certification. And then around the certification side is where we specify, we have a technical committee, TC 150, that anyone is available to join or be a member of. And we now have also a bio-based materials technical committee if anyone's interested in bio-based materials or agricultural source materials for modern medicine construction. And then there is an international committee there for prefabricated buildings that's been led by the Chinese. And again, Ireland is an observatory member in that space. In terms of routes for certification for modern medicine construction, what we have is there's an EU directive. And if they're in place, as I said, for modern medicine construction, they can be promoted. You can then have CE marking of that, but that's only particularly for products, not for building systems per se. We have then an Irish standard. So this is all set out in Technical Guidance Document Part D in Schedule D3. It's the smallest of all the building regulations. It's 19 pages long. And in that table, it explains what certification routes are available. There is only one Irish standard, IS 440, for timber frame construction. That's been around since 2009 and was recently updated in 2014. There is a new standard due out from a 2024 standard, but that's under development at the moment. You then have the European Organization for Technical Assessment, which can certify to a European Technical ETA. And then what you can get from that is it can certify building kits. Unfortunately, it doesn't cover all specific building regulations in each EU jurisdiction. So therefore, there might be additional testing or inspection required. And then that leaves agreement certification as one of the only routes. And what it says in TGD Part D is that agreement certification is a process where your building system or kit or process falls outside an existing standard and it's innovative or novel by its approach. Therefore, unless it's an EU directive or CE marking or there's a developed Irish standard technical specification, your only alternative then is get agreement certification to demonstrate compliance, unless you want to go from the prima facie evidence route and support that. Why now is because we have huge constraints. So recent reports by the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council and ESRI have identified that we have 80,000 construction workers short that we needed, both professional and trades. Construction inflation is slowly coming down, but recent figures is around 6.5, still higher than current 2.4% inflation. We still have that housing demand and we've net inward migration. We've got the skills shortage. You've got issues that ESB and Irish Water are starting to focus in on. And then we've an increased capital spend from government. So while the ECB interest rates are slowly coming down, it's below 3.6 now, just before Christmas, we still have wage inflation. And we also have geopolitical tensions, both from the government with the incoming president now with Donald Trump, and then we've European impacts that are going there. But in fairness to the government, they've been very supportive around recent policies. They've developed a roadmap. They've been pushing on with that. And under the National Development Plan, Project 2040, you're starting to see the Land Development Agency and other organisations. We've got the MMC Leadership and Integration Group that you can follow. There's the Timber Frame Construction Group. A lot of great work that Construct Innovate are doing themselves and around this and research, which Daniel will touch upon shortly. And you have the MMC Demonstration Park. So we're here to help support that. And we're starting to see a lot more e-tenders requesting agreement certification around building systems and modern medicine construction. So it's understanding those backdrops. But even at a European level, I don't know if you're aware of it, but the European Commission announced in November, the end of November, the first ever EU Commissioner for Energy and Housing. It's a Danish gentleman, and he's now looking after this. And it's something to be aware of, that there is a housing crisis all across Europe, in Luxembourg, Portugal. And again, it's driven by sustainability targets, but net inward migration. And there's also a report as well about repurposing vacant buildings, and Ireland was mentioned in that report as well. So you can start to see the drivers that are coming in both at European level and Irish government level. From our perspective, we have 60 clients in with us at the moment in various different models of medicine construction. But what I want to touch upon was the different material types. We're starting to see a lot of timber frame, and we have 3 mass engineered timber solutions that have come into us. We have a Slovenian company, We have a Slovakian company, we have an Irish company, and then we have a potential UK company coming in as well to the market. We're starting to see a lot of light gauge deals. So we've existing 8 certified clients in that space, but we're starting to see a bit more in that movement. We have 2 precast clients as well that are doing sandwich type of panel solutions. They're well-known precast manufacturers here in Ireland, and they're looking to push up to 20 stories in building height. We have the ICF insulated concrete formwork clients, and some of them are now starting to do 2D panelized systems where 2 of them are looking to pour the concrete in their factory and ship them as panelized ICF solutions, specific for their clients' needs. And we're actually traveling to Poland at the end of this month to look at 3 welded systems that are making the carcass or the 3D volumetric frame over in Poland, which ship it then to the UK or Ireland for the offsite manufacturers to fit them out here and do the finishes on them here in Ireland or the UK. And then we have a 3D concrete manufacturing company that's looking as well to come into the market. So these are just some of the examples that we see. The top right left-hand corner there is a 2D panelized system that Framespace would have done in Kimmage Cross Roads, and that's been there, built over 3 years ago, and it's still standing in apartment blocks, social affordable housing. You have the typical bathroom pods that are done, but a lot of the offsite manufacturers have moved forward in that space and have started to enhance their offering, light gauge steel, other ICF and 2D panelized systems. But we're starting to see, again, a push now into this mass engineered timber. So this is a mass engineered timber building made in Austria, but it actually is in Roscommon in Ireland at the moment. And they've also built a warehouse there in Quantum Business Park there heading out to Ashburn. So you're starting to see what's happening in the space around sustainability and decarbonisation of the sector. But we're also seeing some more novel or innovative solutions around straw infill panels. We've got hempcrete solutions coming into us as well. And we're starting to see bio-based. And even down in the bottom left-hand corner, the novel materials, it's a mixture of isoprene, plywood, byproduct materials with rebar in the center and then concrete poured. And this is coming from Italy. And it's quite interesting and innovative of what they have and the certifications around that. And then we structural insulated panels. And now we've got perlite blocks coming in from Poland as well. So it's a mined volcanic byproduct of the volcanic ash that's being brought in to make a lightweight aggregate block. But then we've started to see 3D concrete printing as well, which you'd be familiar with the 3D concrete houses that were piloted up in Louth County Council there. So I just want to play a little video. This is of a new client that's come into us from the UK. That's a new company that's come into Ireland here. It's from the UK. They ship some of the materials from Australia over to China, and then they make the panelized system in China, the 2D panelized system. They're shipping it then to England, fitted out into a 3D volumetric box that you saw in the video there. And they're looking to get to 45 meters tall, 15 stories high, and they see a market here in Ireland, and they've applied for Agreement certification with ourselves to bring that solution into Ireland. So it just shows you, and they've built 7 of the top 10 tallest modular buildings in the world, and they're looking to get that certified here in Ireland to be compliant with the building regulations. What McKinsey said was this industry is ripe for disruption. So it's $1 trillion growth industry, and we can see that year on year that there's more demand for Agreement certification, more demand for sustainable materials, bio-based materials, and there's a lot of innovation in this sector and there's circularity. And we also see that to drive the productivity increases, it's going to have to come through digitalization, that increase in innovation, that BIM, 3D modeling, and that's where it is. And it's not going to change because the scarcity of labor is not going to be solved in the next 3 to 5 years' time. We're not going to get enough people coming through the system to be able to support both professional and trades. And we see regional demand for that as well. And the regulatory environment isn't going to get any easier. So MMC is ripe for disruption, and that's what we need to in on. To underpin that ourselves, we set up a new division in MMC in Ireland, NSAI, to help support that for the last 18 months. And this is a combination of our sustainability and built environment team that are very much focused on sustainable materials and products and solutions. Our MMC Modern Methods Construction, which is for 2D panelized and 3D volumetric systems. And we have a BIM certification team in support of the Office of Government Procurement. And these are all in our NSAI strategic plan. You're more than welcome to download that from the NSAI website. And it outlines what we're doing. And underpinning all that is standards on our NSAI standards division. And we welcome as many people to join technical committees and write your own standards for the future of MMC. Don't leave it up to others. Get involved, get active. Unfortunately, as a certification body, we have to be impartial and we cannot sit on our own standards committees. But we welcome anyone else, academia, industry, vested interests, or stakeholders. By all means, get involved in that side of it, and we'll support you. So just to wrap up in this piece is, in summary, we keep a track of all the offsite manufacturers, and a lot of people question me on this, but there is 217 organizations, and these are the breakdown by the categories that they're involved in, be it 3D panelized, or they do both 2D panelized and 3D volumetric. So you can start to see a breakdown, or some are across others. Why there's quite a lot in category 5 and 6 is there's a lot of mechanical and electrical companies that do offsite manufacturing for the data center and life science sector. So just in case you're wondering why there's a few down there. This is a quick breakdown just in terms of pie charts. You can see they're very active in the 2D and 3D volumetric space. And we're starting to see a good regional spread. And we're finding that they're very much on motorway networks or where they can get quick access to urbanization and cities. But it's great to see a geographical regional spread with these offsite manufacturing companies. We need to support them because they need throughput and they need pipeline, and they need to be able to be sustainable going forward in the future as a solution for Ireland. And we need to be aware of that and conscious of it. And what we've also done to wrap up is we help companies. We have a readiness scorecard. So if anyone wants a copy of this, we're happy to give them. We look at it. You can assess yourself on a self-evaluation basis, and you can look at the technical guidance documents or your factory production control readiness. We've tested this, road tested with 10 recent offsite manufacturers, and the correlations have been excellent. And we're getting great feedback on it. So if anyone wants to feel what do they need to do around MMC, by all means, please ask us, and we're here to help in that space. And you can start to see trends and scorings out of that, and it'll give you diagrams and spider diagrams in relation to that. So just to wrap up, there's over 200 offsite manufacturers in the company. There's over 115 active stakeholders in MMC, and you'll see that in the various reports that have been published. We've 20 MMC building systems certified that are not timber frame. There's another 33 timber frame companies. And we'd like to grow that and work with the industry and support that. And we're here to support. We have a huge knowledge library of data, and we have a small team at the moment of 5, but we've got government funding to increase that for the years ahead, which is great to see. So you can see the support from government and what we're trying to do. And at the end of the day, it's a quality assurance scheme that we're giving to the market that will help underpin MMC going forward. I just want to say thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Martin. That's an excellent overview of MMC within Ireland in terms of the activity, the breadth of types of technology that's going on, and also the support that's there from NSAI. And obviously you could do a whole presentation on that support from NSAI, and there's a whole process that you can go through and step-by-step process through. But do anyone that is interested in that, do reach out directly to Martin. He can provide lots of guidance and information on that. If anyone has any specific questions for Martin or any of our other speakers, please do post them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen there, and then we will come to all the questions at the very end. So I'm going to move on to our second speaker, who's Paul Tierney, CEO of MMC Ireland, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the current capabilities in various MMC technologies in Ireland. So over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for the introduction. And Martin, thanks a million for that great presentation there. Hopefully, what I intend to do here over the next 15 minutes is kind of build on some of the slides you've shown around some of the materials in use in MMC, and have a look at some finished projects around the country that are currently being both manufactured and constructed throughout the country. So just a bit of brief background on MMC Ireland. So MMC Ireland are just over 2 years in existence now. It's the representative body for the MMC sector and industry in Ireland. We view ourselves as a knowledge bridge between industry and third-party clients, predominantly government. We spend a lot of time working with government and other agencies throughout the country in helping promote and support policy within Ireland. So no need to show what this is. I think a lot of people are aware of what this is. Martin alluded to it also, but what I will do is show what the MMC Ireland members split and spread of that MMC categories are, which is pretty much in line with what Martin has shown. A lot of definitions around MMC. My own view is just basically how to do things better and improve on traditional construction methodologies that have been in place for the last 50 years, focusing on standardization, both components and in processes, and DFMA, prefabrication, pre-assembly, etc. MMC Ireland, there are currently 90 members within MMC Ireland, and if you log on to the website mmcireland.com, you'll see the list of members there. It is a true representation of the MMC sector in Ireland. Looking at the focus from the members and where they do most of their work based on turnover, you can see there residential obviously is by far and away the number one, followed by education, healthcare, data centers, and surprisingly in defence came in at number 5. There's just a split of where their focus is. It's a similar chart to Martin's, which is kind of encouraging. So you see a lot in category 1 and category 2. If you add up all those percentages, you'll obviously get over 100 because a lot of manufacturers do both, and some do actually 3. So 1 and 2, which is 3D volumetric, 2D panelized, are by far and away the largest components for the MMC industry in Ireland. And again, just the makeup of the membership, main contractors and manufacturers again make up by far and away nearly 70% of the membership. Architects, designers, and component suppliers make up the rest. So what I plan to do over the next 10-15 minutes is just to show some examples of what is currently happening in Ireland. I'm going to talk you through some case studies around what designers are currently designing. I'm going to look at some precast concrete offsite manufacturing, moving into light gauge steel, and moving into both light gauge steel and precast concrete, a bit of ICF, and finishing off with 3D volumetric. And the reason I want to show the various components is a lot of people associate modular as being MMC. Modular is one part of MMC. It's a very important part, but it certainly isn't the largest part of MMC. And there are a lot of other categories within MMC. I want to show you some of those examples today. I have quite a lot of slides. I have 15 minutes to present them, so it'll have to be a bit of a speed dating exercise through them. But again, I'm happy to take questions afterwards and share this presentation with anybody. So these are just some of the designs that are currently taking place in this country. These designs here are a mixture of both 2D panelized and 3D volumetric, and they are designed by the architects and the engineers with MMC in mind. So that they are designed using module designs and using 2D component designs to ensure that when they go to construction and manufacturing, that the ease of manufacture is seamless when it comes to actually delivering on what's been designed. Again, I think one of the schemes there was part of Martin's presentation. You'll see College Road in Croydon, done by Tide and Vision. These are the schemes done outside Ireland by a company called Tide Stroke Vision. It's a 40-odd story 3D volumetric building. But again, some of the schemes you can see here have been designed and are built already in Ireland. This is a precast concrete designer and consulting engineers who would have designed this building. I've actually walked through this building. It was designed in precast concrete using BIM, had digital twin throughout the whole process. And from start to finish, when that building actually got to site, there was 5 stories of that building erected and weathered within 16 weeks. It just goes to show what precision design can do when it comes to designing for manufacture and assembly. Moving on to some examples of works that are currently live. And a lot of people mightn't associate precast concrete with MMC. A lot of people will. But here's an example of a building, which is the Everton football stadium. I think it's due to open in the coming weeks. That was actually built by Banagher precast concrete. So the whole structure of that building, all the terracing, the stairs, the beams, the walls, were all built by Banagher and shipped across the Irish Sea, delivered to Liverpool, and erected on site. an interesting take on MMC. Again, it's a scheme live, finished in Sandyford. A lot of MMC used here, precast concrete frame, light gauge, panelized external walls, prefabricated bathroom pods, and all the balconies were manufactured off-site, giving you a complete solution. Some wall panels, again, precast concrete wall panels. There are a number of manufacturers in the country delivering these schemes where the walls are finished off-site with brick finish, render finish, a number of finishes, and then various elements of finish on the inside, depending on what the client would want at any particular time. Another example of this, precast concrete walls, again, with a brick finish, windows in, ventilation systems put in. These will all be delivered to site and erected into infill within a precast concrete slab. Examples of some ICF schemes throughout the country. There are a growing number of ICF contractors and manufacturers, and basically ICF is a pre-manufactured insulation concrete formwork, and generally on site you have the concrete poured, but there are variants and different varieties of that. One which is a company called Visor, who will do both the concrete and the insulation off-site in the factory and deliver the actual wall panel with the insulation, concrete wall panel, and with the insulation already fitted in the factory. This factory, I visited just over 2 months ago, just before Christmas. And I have to say, whilst you may think it's a rebar steel factory, what's the big deal? It's the most innovative MMC factory I've seen. I am in the sector over 30 years at this stage, and I've seen quite a lot of factories doing quite a lot of really good things. But the Midland Steel factory down in Portlaoise is by far and away the best MMC factory I've seen. So it's a fully automated, fully robotic factory. I think they have 2 welders on site, where in the past they would have had between 20 and 30. There's 2 welders now, and everything is fully automated from start to finish. And that scheme, which is on the screen right there, is a scheme in the centre of Dublin City, and they actually knocked just under 6 months off the programme, bringing massive savings to the scheme. All the rebar was pre-manufactured off-site, delivered and installed within 2 days, which would have taken a number of months historically. And I think the guys in Midland would be more than happy to accommodate a factory visit. I can't speak on behalf of Midland, but I know they're more than happy to pretty much show off what they're doing down there. It really is best in class in off-site manufacturing. Timber frame, light gauge steel, and a mixture of both. So precast concrete frames, and Cairn, one of the biggest developers in the country, do some brilliant stuff in off-site. They have an integrated off-site supply chain. Their primary construction methodology would be a precast concrete structure with either timber frame, closed panel, or light gauge steel closed panel. They have knocked, if you can see a comparison there in the bottom right hand corner, compared to the traditional construction, they are 11.5 weeks quicker per unit, whether that's a house or whether that's an apartment, by using off-site technologies. Again, Hines, a massive development out in Cherrywood, another scheme, precast concrete, external wall panels, over 2,000 bathroom pods. In general, knocked about 30% off the program compared with traditional manufacturing. E-Tex are Reimagine, formerly Horizon. A lot of people would have known as Horizon. All light gauge steel, closed panel construction. Do a lot of work, and they do a lot of hybrid work as well, with concrete and with hot rolled steel. You see there 16 weeks for 2 4-story apartment blocks to be erected, installed, fully weathered to allow internal fit out in less than 4 months. Like historically, using traditional construction, that certainly would have been 7 or 8 months. So you're knocking a significant amount of time off programs. Another job is actually done by Clancy, 200 or so student accommodation blocks. Again, light gauge steel, closed panel construction, repeatable design, repeatable delivery, and repeatable processes, standardized processes, resulting in like huge savings when it comes to program. Mass timber, Martin mentioned mass timber, and it's a growing area, particularly when it comes to sustainability and carbon reduction. This is an example of a scheme, I think it's down in Cork. Pardon me, CLT. I'd be a massive fan of CLT and what it can do. It is a small contributor currently to the MMC industry in Ireland and UK, but it's growing. It's a growing category in Ireland. It's very popular in Europe, and I can see a huge uptick and uptake in mass timber solutions in Ireland over the next coming years. I'm going to show some what you would normally associate with MMC with some 3D volumetric, both in schools and in residential, both in Ireland and elsewhere. Everything I'm showing here has been done by Irish contractors and Irish manufacturers, and they're all members of MMC Ireland. So CPAC do a lot of schools. There's a current government framework which has delivered, I think it's over 2 billion in the last 4 years in MMC education facilities. There's a new education framework coming out this year, specifically for 3D volumetric accommodation, and its value is circa 1 billion. Again, showing the confidence that government has in the MMC sector in Ireland. So, in general, you'll see for these schemes, program savings versus traditional of somewhere between 30 and 40%. Another school, again, 30% saving on program, just under 7,000 square feet, which is give or take 75,000 square feet. You can see there from the charts on the right hand side the significant benefits outside program. I'd never discuss cost as a massive saving until we get into proper standardization, but in building performance and carbon emissions, some significant savings there. A small little scheme, whilst it's small, it is hugely significant. It's a recent scheme in Bluebell, just finished. They are 6 single living unit modular construction, built by DME Modular, all carbon zero homes. So it's the first carbon zero modular homes built in Ireland, recently handed over for Tiglin, who are a approved housing body. That's just the inside of the little kitchen stroke dining room. Moving on to more significant schemes. So a couple of these schemes were built. These are all 3D volumetric schemes you're going to see now. A couple of them are in the UK. One is in the UK but built in Ireland, and one is in the States, built in the States by an MMC Ireland manufacturer. So again, this is a hotel in the centre of London. This is another hotel which is in Victoria Station. A lot of you may have visited Victoria Station. Literally around the corner from the train station is this 3D volumetric hotel. You'll see on the 2 slides on the left-hand side, modules being lifted in, cladding finished on site thereafter. This scheme would have been delivered with a PMV of circa 90%. The interior quality photographs you see here, that's how these schemes were delivered. They were delivered with everything you see in those photographs, bar the bed in, done in the factory and delivered to site. And this is a pretty significant scheme in Philadelphia. Again, it's all 3D volumetric manufactured. It's done by a company called VBC. So VBC have recently opened a facility in Ireland. They are a pretty significant player worldwide. America is their primary market. They do a lot of work in Europe, and they've targeted Ireland as their next biggest market. They have a design department over in Monaghan where they employ just shy of 30 MMC designers, designing schemes all over the world for VBC, I think, which is a huge achievement to have such a centre of excellence in MMC design based over in Monaghan, designing these types of buildings. So this is a building in the middle of Philadelphia. Again, fully 3D volumetric, would have been a concrete ground floor and modules delivered to site. You see on the top left-hand corner there during construction. So concrete ground floor and modules, you see bottom left-hand corner getting delivered and dropped in on site. Again, the interior finishes, everything you see there, bar the loose furniture, completed in the factory, with the remainder of the fit out done on site. And on the right-hand side, you'll see how this was designed for manufacture and assembly using individual modules. And again, I can answer any questions on this post the presentation, but design is the most important thing when it comes to maximizing the benefits in MMC. I want to give you some kind of real life photographs of what a factory looks like using MMC 3D volumetric. This is an apartment development built by a manufacturer in Ireland. And you'll see this is the central corridor unit. And behind this module are 3 other modules making up a 3-bed apartment. So the idea behind the central module where all the services come out, it allows the apartment itself throughout this whole development be fully finished, all services brought out into a central core, and then it allows that core be finished on site with a number of access hatches where all the services and modules are connected. You'll see on my left-hand side, if you can see my cursor, this building itself was fully sprinkled, or sprinklered, if that's a word. So not only did it have a full heating and ventilation, full M&E, full audio visual, it's also fully sprinkled throughout the whole unit. This is a view from inside looking out into that module. So this is one of the bedrooms. Again, this is in a factory, fully finished, carpets, wardrobes, AV and sprinklers. This is the kitchen. Again, pardon me, this is a factory photograph, giving you an idea of the type of finishes you can have in a factory. That's the modules themselves being delivered in. That's into the center of London, and that's the finished article. And that's the outside of the building once the external cladding was put on. So that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of some of the schemes being done currently by Irish manufacturers, Irish contractors, both throughout the country of Ireland and beyond, UK, Europe, and America. That's just a quick snapshot of the contractors who were featured. All Irish contractors doing fantastic work. And I have to say, tying in with the work being done by Martin in NSAI, we'd be huge advocates of the Agreement certification. And I know the membership will be huge advocates of the NSAI certification. And what Martin needs and is implementing is additional resources to help with getting additional Agreement certs for contractors who look to enter this country. So thank you very much, Jamie. I hope that's a little quick whistle-stop tour of what's going on in the country.
Brilliant. Fantastic, Paul. Great, great whistle-stop tour, like showing lots and lots of different technologies, but like showcasing lots of companies and showing the strength that we have in the country and offering, not just, I suppose, to help solve some of the crises like the housing crisis, but also the schools and other infrastructure we need in the country, but also that we, can be leaders across the Ireland, UK, Europe, and further afield in terms of manufacturing and export led. So, which will
totally agree, Jamie. And the work that Construct Innovate are doing, I think, is really innovative and it's groundbreaking. And I said this before a number of times. I think Ireland has the opportunity to become the centre of excellence for MMC in Europe. I really believe that. And I think by all agencies working together, we can certainly achieve that goal.
Brilliant. Okay, so for today, we're going to pass over to our final speaker for this session today. So it's Dr. Dan McCrum from Construct Innovate based out of University College Dublin, and he's going to talk about standardization on modern methods of construction. So over to you, Dan.
Thanks a million, Jamie, and thanks to the previous two speakers as well. Yeah, I think it was about a year ago, the three of us all spoke on a very basic introduction to MMC on the similar Construct Innovate webinar series. So it's great to see the developments that have taken place within a year and the pace at which those developments have taken place. So today I'm going to talk about standardization of modern methods of construction. So I mean, from my background, I'm a structural engineer, so I'm going to focus a little bit on that side of things. But I'll just mention a few kind of the existing MMC codes or standards or guidance that actually exist. The other speakers, both Martin and Paul, have alluded to the need for standards. I thought I wrote down a couple of numbers there that Martin said 33 Agreement certs for timber frame and 23 for non-timber frame. And I think when we talk about ISO 440, that certainly alludes to why that probably is the case, that there's quite a dominance around timber frame. I'll talk about the standardized project. This is looking at standardized construction details for MMC. I'll talk about the indicative test program and a little bit of the objectives of that project. But I think Paul mentioned as well about once you have standardized construction details that we'll talk about in this project and also standardized typologies and layouts, what does that mean for MMC? So I just have a brief slide on that towards the end as well. So yeah, this is not an exhaustive list, but if you think about existing MMC standards, codes, and guidance, so if you have a standard like ISO 440, as Martin said, it's the only standard we have. But I've just tried to highlight a few other guidance as well, which industry is using. So the Concrete Centre back in 2007 looked into design and construction using insulating concrete formwork. So again, it's guidance. It's not a kind of a common standard that everyone works to. ISO 44 or IS 440 back in 2009, timber frame dwellings. This is category 2. So as Martin mentioned, it's the only standard that we have. So if you construct your building to that standard, you don't need to go down through the agreement route that Martin has mentioned. So the ones that have the agreement certs must be doing something slightly different. What does that mean for timber frame construction? I don't have the numbers offhand, but I know from, I think, to 2023, there was about 20-25% of all new build residential construction was timber frame. So that's what standardization does for you. Okay. If we look at other MMC categories and materials, so Steel Construction Institute P402 is light steel framing in residential construction is quite widely used. It's category 2 again, but obviously like H steel. Again, this is guidance, it's not a standard. The MPA, the Concrete Centre in 2019 published the offsite concrete construction. That one was really guidance on the benefits of using offsite concrete construction and some common techniques. But if you consider, we've, as Paul has mentioned, we've been doing offsite concrete, precast concrete floors, columns, walls, etc. We've been doing them for quite a long time. So there is guidance out there, and more design guidance around that. In relation to ISO ASTM 52939, that was in 2023. This is for additive manufacturing for construction. This is category 4, so 3D concrete printing. This is a quality assurance requirement for additive manufacturing, so not the full-blown structural code, I suppose. That I'd be more used to, for example, when you think of Eurocode 3, for example, or Eurocode 2. I would like to mention as well, there's a few others here that are kind of under development. PAS 8700 will be coming out this year. I think it was open for general consultation towards the end of last year, I believe. And this is modern methods of construction for new build residential properties. And this is the British Standards Institute here, focusing really on categories 1 and 2. But again, this isn't like a design standard. It wouldn't be a design standard where it gives you the specific way to structurally design, for example, a category 1 modular building. But it's more of a, well, in my opinion, it's more of a management standard, and also helps the industry probably have a common language, which I think is hugely beneficial. ISO TC 59 SC 19, which is prefabricated buildings. This is being led by China. I haven't seen this now, to be honest with you, but this is looking at category 1 and is still under development. Syria Build Offsite P3279. I thought I'd mention this Construct Innovator on the working group. And this is an interesting one. It's not a standard or code, but it's guidance, I suppose, for the industry. The Build Offsite Alliance in the UK and Syria came together and said, well, if we go down the route of performance specification for specifying contracts, well, then MMC will have a better chance of being included as an option. So that will be coming out this year, I believe, in March. So look out for that one as well. So it's not an exhaustive list. It's not, everything isn't covered. And some of the categories are, obviously missing at them. So a full list of them more. So the need for MMC. So really, I thought, I'd try and describe this myself, but a report came out from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government in the UK on volumetric modular construction research back in 2024. And I think they summed it up really well. There was, a few headline things that they mentioned, but if you look at the two extracts here, so current approved documents were developed for traditional forms of construction and do not explicitly focus on volumetric construction or other types of MMC. I mean, Martin's procedure around agreement would demonstrate that as well. Different approaches in volumetric construction in relation to warranties, accreditation, and certification create confusion. I think we can agree to that in the modular or MMC world. The resulting lack of uniformity and fragmentation that exists points to a need for commonality. So I think we would, as the industry, would probably agree with that also. So there's a real need for standardization. So in that regards, the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, about probably nearly a year and a half ago at this stage now, came to construct Innovate with this concept for this project. They had received feedback from industry around the need for standardized details for MMC residential construction, and they wanted this to help support housing for all and delivery of new housing. So the concept here, I suppose, was to create open source MMC standardized construction performance or details for, you know, the different parts of the building regulations. So for structure, fire, energy, durability, resistance to moisture, and sound. So on the right-hand side, the images that you see on the bottom right, I believe that's for timber frame. So this is, can't remember if it's supplementary guidance, the technical guidance documents, or acceptable construction details. I can't recall offhand, but that's for part B in relation to timber frame. And then on the top right is looking at external insulation. So there's been, you know, we've done this before, so maybe we could do something similar again. And the idea is to design and test these details and demonstrate compliance to the building regulations. And the idea would be then to support mainstream development and uptake of MMC. So this project is, I should say, is being led by myself and University College Dublin. It's collaborators are in the University of Galway, Dr. Magdalena Hadjikevich and Dr. Owen King, and is funded by Enterprise Ireland. It'll be a multi-year project. So just a little bit of the details about the project. The first objective really, I suppose, from our perspective, is that we want to identify the needs for industry for standardization. So if you consider Martin and Paul, you know, presentation about the different categories, but within each of the different categories of MMC, you've got different materials. They're at different levels of maturity. For example, timber frame are much more mature because of IS 440. But within category 2, if you think about light gauge steel, I think Martin mentioned 8 light gauge steel agreement certifications for residential construction. But also mass timber, again, is a different material and at a different level of maturity. So they all have different needs in that regard. The second objective then is to just identify the performance and durability requirements for the different parts of the building regulations, you know, just make sure we're up to date with everything that's going on. And then we want to produce these standardized details for initially one type of MMC. That's what we have the budget for, but we will, the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage are keen. This is a multi-project I suppose. And the idea is to produce these based on standard testing. So we'll do the testing at accredited test facilities and look at floor, wall, roof buildups and junctions, etc. But these will be really dictated by industry consultation, you know, quite heavily, really. And objective 4 then is to produce open source publication initially of the test data, because we believe that test data should be open source, but also if you are planning on going down the agreement process and part of that test data could be useful for your agreement certification and speed up that process, well, then you could use it, or else you could then just rely purely on the performance or the acceptable construction details or the supplementary guidance, the technical guidance documents to use that information. So that's the overall objectives of the project. In terms of the testing program, it'll obviously be hugely important. You know, these are innovative systems and they need to be tested and to help us demonstrate compliance with the building regulations. But on the left is a table of estimated costs. It's not estimated. These are the costs, I should say. So for Part A and Part B, for Part A structure and Part B fire, there'll be the responsibility of University College Dublin. So you can see the budgets we have there, 120,000 and 960,000. Part C and E for resistance to moisture and sound, 450,000 and 90,000 will be the responsibility of University of Galway. On the right-hand side, we've just, I mean, this was to help us put together the funding proposal, but ultimately, when we meet with stakeholders, we will, you know, obviously this will change, you know, the testing matrix here. So like looking at testing of party walls, you know, internal wall panels, floor panels, roof panels, whatever industry deemed necessary for different types of board, obviously that would be important. 60-minute, 90-minute, etc. So obviously this will change based on industry engagement on the project. Paul mentioned this about, you know, the cost and standardization. I kind of wanted to, well, this maybe simplifies it a little bit, but if you imagine from the standardized project, we'd pick one MMC initially forward to go forward to get the supplementary guidance to the technical guidance documents or the ACD. So we'll produce those. So if you are a structural engineer, for example, you go to the guidance and that's what you use. Okay, so that really reduces if you haven't specified MMC before, that really helps in that regard. But I want to mention another project around standardized typologies, and maybe I'm simplifying the project by calling them standardized typologies, but this is the standardized design approaches study. Again, this is the Department of Housing Local Government Heritage project, which is being led by Hawkins Brown or completed by Hawkins Brown. It's a work in progress. I think they have another stakeholder event coming up in February. But the idea here is they're looking at several different standardized typologies for, you know, residential and apartment buildings and duplexes, etc. So later on in the year, the outcome of that project will come out. But imagine, let's simplify it for a minute. And on the left-hand side, you have standardized construction details for your particular type of MMC. You have on the right-hand side, you have standardized typologies, which won't change. Well, then you've got, well, I wouldn't say barrier-free MMC, but you know, you have an easier route into MMC if you haven't specified it before. You have the compliance there, it's been demonstrated. If you have used MMC before and you're a manufacturer, for example, you have repeatability and potentially scalability in the future as well. If you know you're going to get same thing coming in terms of standardized details, construction details, and you know, house types, there's a limited number of house types and these are going to be repeated, well then maybe you're going to get scale as well and cheaper houses hopefully as well. And I've mentioned the word automation there, you know, Martin mentioned Midland Seal as a shining light in that regard, but if you could imagine then as a company, you might be able to start to think about investing in automation, okay, if you've got this repeatability and scalability, and then we're hopefully getting into a position where we have cheaper houses. So final slide, the next steps in the project. So the standardized project, we have in Q2, we're going to have our phase 1 where we're going to do stakeholder needs analysis. So we're looking at all categories of MMC, what the different categories need and where are they at. Gap analysis of the MMC standardized performance and details for each of those individual MMCs. We know there's going to be IP issues, so we're fully aware of that. We're not here to take anyone's IP. And details, there will be commonality already, you know, if we look at the agreement certs and we look at, you know, what the industry is doing, there will be commonality about standard details already that just aren't standard. So the idea is that might help speed up the process as well. We'll select the most market ready and impactful MMC first. We'll be very open about how that's done, and mentioning here who goes first. The Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage are very keen that it's not just one MMC. Okay, we will be doing more MMCs. And then finally, the next phase, we'll take that identified MMC forward and look into more specific details around build-ups and locations. If you're interested in being involved in the project in any way, please send me an email, daniel.mccrum@ucd.ie. Thank you very much.